Hi, friends. Welcome back to Elevate with Erica. I'm so glad that you're here today. So, I want to talk about something that's been showing up in my own life again and again. This idea that you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. And it's something that I have to continually remind myself of because it's so easy to kind of start getting a little lack in the way that you're showing up for systems that you put in place. And this is going to click for you and start to make sense for you as we get into this. So, you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. Let that sink in because I know that we've all been there. You set this big, shiny goal, right? And you get excited and you're fired up and you make the vision board and you write it down in your journal. And then 3 weeks later, life happens, right? And the hype fades, and you're left wondering, why can't I ever stick with it? It's not because you're lazy or unmotivated, it's because you don't have the systems in place to catch you when motivation dips, and it will dip. So, I'm going to give you some real life examples throughout this episode. And I'm going to start with this one. So, when I was approaching 40, I've been sharing about this a lot on my social media now that I am an affiliate with Make Wellness, the first company to launch bioactive precision peptides into the health and wellness industry. When I was approaching 40, my body started changing. And what used to work, the long workouts, the balanced nutrition plan, it just wasn't working anymore. And I felt bloated, I felt inflamed, I felt exhausted, I'm having night sweats, the gut stuff just wasn't great, and honestly, I was feeling super defeated. My goal was still there, to feel strong, to feel good in my own skin, but every time I said, okay, this is the week that I'll push harder, I would fizzle out because I didn't have a system that matched the season of life I was in. My system was built for, 25-year-old Erica, not 39-year-old Erica, who was juggling business and family and marriage and hormones. The turning point came when I realized that I needed to create a new system that supported where I am now. Right. So instead of fighting against my body, I needed something that was going to support the stage of life that I'm in now. And for me, that turned out to be shorter but more intentional workouts. And that meant leaning into that balanced nutrition with simple and sustainable meals. Like, I'm just never gonna be, no matter how hard I try, the person who enjoys long meal prepping sessions and creating the perfectly looking containers for a social media picture to say that I'm ready for my week. That's never going to be me, right? So I had to lean into simple, sustainable meals. And it also meant finally saying yes to extra support. It's not cheating. Extra support through these bioactive precision peptides. These are from nature. These are not synthetic. These are not the expensive injections. These are from nature peptides that have helped me feel strong and energized again. So it wasn't my goal that changed, right? It was the system that changed. So I want to give you a little bit of tough love, friend, because goals are not enough. You can say you want a better marriage, but if there's no system of date nights and honest conversations or check-ins, it's just a wish, right? You can say that you want to grow your business, but if there's no system for showing up consistently, learning, following up, you're just hoping that it magically happens for you one day. And I have those conversations with a lot of people in the Make Wellness business all of the time, right? They're like, "Well, I'm just posting me taking my products in the morning and I'm doing my workouts and no one's reaching out. Like, we're not having any conversations though. There's no one to talk to." And they're just kind of hoping that one day it magically happens. Like, all of a sudden, 100 people are going to be knocking on their door, right? Oh, I want to do what you're doing. And that's just not the way it works. Dreaming without a system is like planting seeds and then never watering them. And then you're standing back like, why isn't anything growing? Right? You got to water them. So let me give you some examples here, some tactical systems. Let's break it down, okay? So, relationships. If your goal is connection, and specifically I'm talking about your spouse in this example. If your goal is connection, then your system might be, okay, we're going to commit to one date night a week no matter what. This is then a non-negotiable. This isn't if we have time this week. This is a non-negotiable. And maybe that's like a, maybe it's not a date night because you've got a lot of things happening with your kids in the evenings. Maybe it's a date morning. Maybe it's a date lunch. Maybe you tell your kids, hey, here's a movie. Mom and dad are going to go sit out in the backyard on a blanket and have lunch together. Like that is fine if that's the season you're in, but you don't get to just put you guys on the back burner until you're not busy, right? We're all busy raising kids. You're never going to be not busy. What's going to end up being affected here is your marriage is going to stink, right? I'm trying not to cuss here. So your system might be one date night a week or one, how are you doing? Check in daily. Like every morning you're checking in with your spouse. How are you doing? What can I do to support you today? What do you have upcoming this week where you need me to show up a little bit more to support you through that? Or maybe it's just saying no phones at the dinner table. And this is great, not just for your marriage, it's good for the whole family, right? No phones, dinner table. That's the rule because you're building a healthy, strong relationship with your family, right? Health. If your goal is strength, then your system is a non negotiable workout schedule. Meal prep on Sundays, if you like meal prepping. I prefer the bulk prepping situation. Like, I might not have all these perfectly curated containers, like perfect for the social media picture, but I will bulk cook proteins, bulk cooked veggies, bulk cook some sweet potatoes and rice. And then as I'm going throughout the week, I just kind of spoon a little bit of each of those into a bowl, throw some seasonings in. That's my kind of meal prep. Okay. That's what works for me. Or maybe it's bedtime boundaries, right? Like you're not going to look at your cell phone after 8 p.m. because we know that that then leads to better sleep. Sleep is the foundation of your health. And let's talk about your business or your career, whatever, whichever end you fall in that spectrum. If your goal is growth in your business or your career, then your system is scheduling outreach time and blocking learning time. Like, how are you going to grow in your career if you're not blocking time to grow in yourself, in your skills, right? And then tracking that progress weekly. And personal development, that kind of ties in, right? If your goal is peace, your system then needs to be something like daily journaling, prayer or meditation, and boundaries around what and who gets your energy. Because if you're not taking care of you and protecting your peace and protecting your energy, that's something that we talked about last episode, right? Then no one else is getting the best of you. So that is a priority, taking care of you first. Because here's the thing, the system doesn't have to be complex. It doesn't have to be perfect. You just have to be consistent in it. You'll tweak and refine along the way, right? But if you don't have one at all, then you're always going to fall short because hype fades and life gets loud and the old habits will pull you back. I can tell you that the reason why I am, let's see, I started in 2016. So the reason why I'm 9.5 years into consistently working out every single morning is because I had a system that I put in place 9 years ago, right? So, yes, that system, like I said, has been tweaked a little bit since then. Like now I've incorporated journaling. I was like so anti-journaling, at the beginning of my fitness journey. But now I realize that it really helps me show up as a better person when I can release through writing things down for 5 minutes in the morning. But I've always had a system in place that led up to me working out, right? So I'm getting up, I'm enjoying that quiet time for my family. Some things I've incorporated over the years, like I said, is 5 minute journaling practice, personal development, listening to a morning devotional, meditating. Like there's things that lead up to, and it's a very simple, not time consuming system that leads up to my workouts. And that's why I've stayed so consistent. It's not just like I'm crawling out of bed and I'm throwing on my workout clothes and I'm dreading the workout I have to go do and I'm just going to push play. If that was the case, there's so many mornings when I would never make it to that part. It's the system that leads up to it that prepares me, mind, body, soul, everything that I'm going to push play and I'm going to show up for me now because that's what I do as part of this system, right? So, even in my marriage, there was a season where my husband and I were kind of just passing ships, busy schedules, kids, business. And the goal was obvious that we wanted a strong, connected marriage, but wishing for it wasn't working. And you guys know that's not going to work, but how many of us are showing up like this in our marriages, right? Totally disconnected, wishing for a better marriage and not doing anything about it, right? We had to create systems. And sometimes systems are not sexy. But does that matter? What matters is the end result, right? That you have a beautiful, connected, strong marriage 30, 40, 50, 60 years down the road, right? That's the real flex. So for us, that looked like Friday night campfires in the backyard in the summer, even if we were tired, right? We knew that if we got to that campfire and sat in our chairs together, that's when it would be like, okay, this is nice, right? It looked like blocking time for our camping trips and making those a priority. No matter what else was happening in our life, if my work travel picked up, we had our camping weekends. They're non-negotiables, no matter how busy life was. So those little systems of connection, those little things, they're what carried us when things felt hard and busy. Where in past seasons that hard and that busy would have made us pull apart from each other, right? No, we prioritized each other. We created a system where we prioritize each other. And the same thing showed up recently in my business. I had this moment where I realized that I was constantly busy. I was working all of the time, but at the end of the day, I didn't feel productive. Can any of you relate to that? You're so busy all day. You're working all the time. Like your hours are even maybe a little bit dipping into family time, right? If anybody else can relate, I know that was me. And at the end of the day, I'm like, I feel like I didn't move anywhere. I feel like I'm not advancing. I feel like I'm not growing. I didn't feel productive. And I was losing precious, precious time. And I was doing a lot of things, but I didn't feel like I was doing anything at all. So I feel like reflecting back, right? I feel like this started back when I began rebuilding my life in 2024 after 2023 and the beginning of 2024 gave me a lot of different curveballs. I thought the answer as I was rebuilding was to just do more, right? Overcompensate, be everywhere, say yes to everything, get back to where you were in a hurry, right? I was trying to rush getting back to where I was. But here's the truth. My business didn't thrive when I tried to do more. My business thrived when I was simplified. When I focused on the systems that centered around the real needle movers in what I am building in my career. And that's when things clicked again. When I stopped filling my days with busy work and instead I asked, what are the 2 to 3 things that, if done consistently, will actually move my business forward? And then I built systems around those. And let me tell you, the relief and the focus and the results were night and day. So I've started to insert those things, those needle movers, consistently into my time blocking schedule for my weekly schedule, right? I'm plugging those things in first. And then whatever else I have time for gets put in around those things, right? But never before those things. And I started this about 3 weeks ago. And I can tell you, I just feel so much lighter and I feel so much more successful. And I feel really excited about where I know consistency in these efforts is going to take my business and my team moving forward. And I also am finding myself with more downtime, you guys, which is important because what am I doing with my downtime? I'm prioritizing what also matters to me, and that is my family and my marriage, right? So, if you've ever ended your day exhausted but also frustrated, feeling like you gave so much energy but you have nothing to show for it, friend, I see you. I see you. And it's not that you're not working hard, it's that your systems aren't aligned with the work that actually matters. So, today I want you to ask yourself, what's the system that I need to strengthen? Where do I need to build structure so my goals don't just stay pretty words on a vision board, right? You don't need another Pinterest board full of goals. You need habits. You need structure. You need a system that makes it harder to fail than to succeed. And here's the encouragement. Once you set those systems, the goal starts to feel inevitable. And that ties back into what I just said, right? Over these past few weeks, now that I'm doing this, my goals feel inevitable, and that is exciting. And then you show up to life excited, and that's amazing, right? Because you're not relying on motivation, you're relying on structure, and that's freedom. Structure gives you freedom. It sounds like it wouldn't, right? But it does. Having structure in your life actually gives you more freedom. So, friend, don't just set the goals, build the systems. That's how you win, that's how you elevate. Thank you guys for hanging out with me today. If this message resonated, share it with someone who needs it too. Maybe it's your spouse, your best friend, or your team. Let's help each other not just dream big, but build the systems that make those dreams our reality. Until next episode, friends.